Chicago Bears, the main goal this offseason, get it right for Caleb Williams, Paige Dimakos.
Yeah.
The Chicago Bears find themselves in a situation where they have a transcending quarterback heading into year 2.
Yep.
And they're at the bottom of the division, looking up in a very talented division. Before we fix the Chicago Bears, we have to talk about how did we get here? Paige Dimakos, how did we get here?
Oh, let's see. There's a lot. I could take the whole podcast to talk about.
Let's talk about it.
This is a therapy session, Chicago, baby. And our biggest problem is no longer a problem anymore, but I won't get into that too much in detail, okay? But one of our biggest problems, okay, and how we got here was, let's talk about how they handled the coaching staff going into this year. And one of the things that bothers me that NFL teams do and organizations do is they play the middle, okay? And this is usually a sign of a cheap franchise that doesn't want to buy a coach out, or they can't commit one way or the other. And they stay in the middle and they play lukewarm. So they move on from they make Matt Eberflus come back, and Eberflus had the defense playing really well, right? And so I understood the justification. But the tough part that they put coaches in is when they make them fire their guys, their staff that they brought in, and bring in guys from the outside. Those guys are not loyal to those coaches. They don't know those guys. And they brought in guys that were not his guys. And from that point on, it was doomed.
Yeah.
Year.
Can I break this down for the fan, right?
Yeah,
Chicago fans,
sure.
the NFL fans. And why does this usually never work?
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about this, right? And you're talking about job security, right?
Yep.
We're always talking about coaches are hired to be fired. So you see the situation with Matt Eberflus, and this is not strictly to the Chicago Bears, but this is the Chicago Bears outlining situation.
Yeah.
So Matt Eberflus was obviously on the hot seat. They tell him, fire all of your guys, right? And then bring in new guys. But the issue with this is that he's not going to be able to bring in the best guys because most guys don't want that job because they think that they're going to be fired in a year.
Correct.
So you're not even getting the best of the best, and you're potentially not even elevating your coaching staff. You're potentially taking a step back because you're getting one-year rental guys and guys who know that they're 1 foot out the door and guys who would probably just accepting a job for a check for a year.
100%.
And you have to think about that. And I think that the fans don't understand that portion of it. But I just want to kind of bring it in more detail of what you was explaining why it was so bad.
Because it's doomed. It's doomed. You're it's setting them up for failure. You got to understand, when a guy gets hired for the first time, he's picking his favorite guys.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so then when those guys get fired, he's not going to find better guys than he hired the first time around because he hired those guys that
Especially
first time around.
rentals.
Correct. And that's the part that's tough. And you knew that Caleb Williams was going to be the pick. And you knew that this was going to bring a lot of pressure, right? On top of everything else, there was going to be this was the first time ever the Bears had picked number 1 overall. The first time ever they were going to go get a quarterback. It was, we hosted a show in Chicago for the draft, ahead of the draft. It was a big deal. It was a massive deal. They had 2 top 10 picks. It was a big deal. And they handled that was doomed from the start. And if you need further reference, Bears fans, we just go back to the JSN video, okay? Jackson Smith and Jigba talking about Shane Waldron after he had gotten hired. And he's at the Super Bowl, and this is leading into the season, okay? And he's talking about, they ask him on live radio, what Bears fans should be excited about coming into this season with Shane Waldron. And he's quiet, looks around, and then asks, is this live?
Is this live?
It was everything I want as a nightmare. That was that moment. It was a nightmare.
Live is an all-time quote.
Oh, it was amazing. And shout out to JSN, one of the nicest, sweetest guys. And that's he's not gonna say anything negative. So that was his version of being like, oh shit, right?
Yeah, he wanted to say cut.
Yeah, he wanted to say cut. This ain't live. Can't have this. I felt so bad for him in that moment. But yeah, besides this past year and how they got there, the real true version of them getting here is having old school ownership.
Yeah.
And we'll see if that changes now with obviously the passing of Virginia McCaskey.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. Not only having old ownership, but not knowing when to turn the damn page, right? Sometimes it's just time to turn the page. And I think that the ghost of Mitch Trubisky haunted them too long, right? And I'm going to go here, is that sometimes when people make decisions, they don't want to just admit when they're wrong, right? Sometimes you get 2 years into an experiment and you say you're wrong. Now, how am I trying to explain this? Present day, what happened with Mitch Trubisky and the Chicago Bears is the present-day Daniel Jones and the New York Giants. Meaning that you had a guy that came in there, Mitch Trubisky, who wasn't that good. Then he led his team to the playoffs, or the team led him to the playoffs. And then they thought that he was much better than what he was. And they held on to the dream of Mitch Trubisky being a good quarterback too goddamn long, right? And he started transcending coaches, started transcending GMs, and then they didn't want to move off of him.
Got coaches fired.
Yeah,
baby.
got coaches fired, right? So that's how I look at that. Like, he was probably the mid-2015, 2016, 2017 version of Daniel Jones, right? And currently with the New York Giants.
And it's not only Mitch Trubisky, it's how they handle Justin Fields, too.
100%.
And it's if you're a Bears fan, you know this well. It's never really having a quarterback. In the history, this is one of the oldest franchises in the NFL. One of the original franchises, right? The NFC Championship trophy is named after George Halas from Chicago. And it has always been a sticking point for this team. You had Jim McMahon, and he won us the Super Bowl, and God bless him, but the 85 Bears defense won, and Walter Payton won them a Super Bowl. And it's been a long time since 1985, and they've been living off that for a long time. And it's time, when you look across the division, and Green Bay has had Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and now Jordan Love. This Caleb situation had to be handled properly, and you got 1 year that you did not handle well. So this was not only you got it, you absolutely have to get it right. Like, you had to make the right calls, and so thus far, and we'll get into it, it's been pretty smooth sailing this offseason.
Yeah, well, let's jump into it, because they obviously have new head coach. It was probably the hottest coaching candidate for the past 2 years. Head coach Ben Johnson. Ryan Poles was pretty much retained through this transition, right?
Yep.
And we'll just talk about the current status of those guys, right? And I know one big talking point, because I've talked to you before, the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Not just Ben Johnson, but the coaching staff, and what you're excited about with them.
Yeah, I hammer this. I feel like it's because I became so close to Bruce Arians, and I learned just how influential, right, everybody on the staff. Like, I watched how much detail all the other coaches and the position coaches and they as so much happens on a day-to-day basis, and there's not enough they don't get enough credit, and they don't get enough blame, right? The head coach lives and dies with everything, right? They're the top of the heap. But when you hire a coach, you're hiring that coach and their relationships and their staff. And that's what I was hesitant on Ben Johnson, because I was unsure of how he was going to put together a staff. And I will say I've been blown away by the staff that he's put together. One, being able to bring some of the guys like Antoine Randall over from Detroit, a guy who played in Chicago, who fits the team. Dennis Allen as a defensive coordinator. Yep. You really filled this whole staff out. And as far as a head coach who's an offensive guy, who's going to do the things Caleb needs him to do, and you've heard from Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff and all the things that they were able to do offensively. If he was able to do that with Jared Goff, I feel pretty damn good about what he can do with Caleb Williams. That's all I'm going to say.
Listen, I'll let you jump in with Ben Johnson. I'm going to take the other side of this duel with Ryan Poles.
Yep.
And I'm going to give him his credit, because it's not too many times that people look themselves in the mirror and they get back at it, right? And almost admit they faults, because last year they won the offseason, right? As far as bringing in Rome Odunze, bringing in Keenan Allen. Yep. They had DJ Moore. And then it's like, oh, man, this is going to be an explosive offense, right? And then you probably got to about week 8 and you said, wait, they can't block a goddamn soul, right? And I think Ryan Poles was sitting there reflecting, but also a lot of people were his seat was hot, right? A lot of people were on him saying, how could you pay all of these wide receivers all of this money and invest into those assets and not take care of the line of scrimmage? What he did was he sat there and listened, right? He looked at himself, he reevaluated himself, and he went and got himself some big boys up front that I know you're extremely excited about, but I think it's going to take this a long way, because, and the reason I want to talk about Ryan Poles was that in tandem with Ben Johnson, Ben Johnson wants to run the football also, right? Yeah. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jamal Robinson, right before he went to the New Orleans Saints. The Lions also run the football, and so it was almost a, hey, Ben Johnson walking into the office saying, this is what I want, and then Ryan Poles going to get the job done. Let me hop on the phone and figure this out.
Yeah, and I think that's the reality is when you talk about the Bears and what they've brought in, right? And I'll transition us to the guys that they brought in.
Yeah,
right?
let's talk about it. Yep.
Let's talk about these guys because, one, Ryan Poles, and a former offensive lineman, buddy, you did good, pal. We did trades, right? You got trades, you got guys you're picking up. They bring in a new center.
Yep.
This offensive line will have 3 new starters. That's what needed to happen. You got Jonah Jackson. You bring in Joe Tooney. You bring in Drew, right? The center from Atlanta. They bring him in. You're going to have a tough ass, and he's 26 years old, the center from Atlanta. He's a young guy.
He's going to be there a while.
He's going to be there a minute. These are not older, bad. These are good trades. These are good superstar offensive linemen. You look at that starting 5 and you go, all right, I feel pretty good now. Because this was the only thing I cared about. And I'm very excited about Grady Jarrett. That's a great signing for them. A great football player in Atlanta for a long time. But I think if you talk to any Bears fan this offseason, what was the number one thing? Offensive line. That's all you were going to hear. And quite frankly, as a Bears fan, I've never, ever seen them spend money. Not my whole life. It's never happened. Trust me, I know this. I've been in this industry a long time, and I pay attention to how the owners, what the expectations are and what the conversation is about franchises and organizations.
Yep.
And there are certain organizations that are labeled cheap. Chicago Bears were one of them. This offseason, multiple people text me with a money emoji because they could not imagine. Quite frankly, I kept looking at the ticker of ESPN going, could not be. Correct. I was like, I can't imagine this. I want to go in my backyard, pop champagne, and throw money around. I was like, this is what I'm talking about, Bears. But if you're a Bears fan, this was a absolute necessity to get done, and they did it in a way that I have never seen them do. And quite frankly, I'm very happy about it because you have to be able to right your wrongs. And they did. They needed to right the wrongs, and that's what they did.
Yep.
That's what they did.
Across the front, just to give the detailed names, right? You're talking about Joe Tooney, right?
Yep.
And he'll step in, play left guard. Drew Dahlman. And then they have Jonah Jackson and then Grady Jarrett, right?
Yep.
And that's all trenches, all big boys. The exact opposite of what they did last year, which means what? They're trying to get a balanced approach. But Paige Dimakos,
it's Chicago, baby. That's what we do. We hit people. We play in the trenches. We embarrass people. Watch some 85 Bears footage and get yourselves hyped up, Chicago. Okay, it's time to put some people's faces in the goddamn dirt.
There we go. Put some people in the dirt from Paige Dimakos. My girl fired up over here.
Fucking right, Keith. I'm ready to watch the Bears. When's the season start?
Oh, we got a couple months. We got
to get it. And we got a top 10 pick. Oh,
yeah,
shit.
That's what we about to talk about. We got team needs, right? And I'm gonna go with this. This is what I went when I looked at the Chicago Bears.
And we got 4 picks in the first 3 rounds.
4 picks.
2 third-round picks.
Yep.
Just so we're keeping notes, Bears fans.
So I went offensive tackle. I went running back. I went edge rusher. So with the first selection, I went Josh Simmons, offensive tackle from Ohio State. I believe if this guy is healthy, he's in the argument for the best offensive tackle in the entire draft class.
Yep.
He's coming off an injury, but if the medicals clear out, plug him and play him at left tackle. Listen.
And you saw that Ohio State line with and without him.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally different ball game.
Totally different ball game, right? And then also, this is the thing. There have been people saying, okay, they've invested enough into the offensive line.
Nope.
Go running back there early. No, you haven't.
Nope.
Because what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to get a guard, a center guard, and then leave Caleb's blindside at the left tackle and leave that up to potentially Kieran Amadagaji and then Braxton Jones.
Well done.
Yeah, I'm working on my pronunciation.
That was good.
You know what I'm saying?
That was
getting
very
in my
good.
bag.
Let me clear this up. This is not for Bears fans. This is for all football fans. There is no such thing as too many offensive linemen. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. Okay? And I'm jokingly but not jokingly, the chemistry of having 5 guys play throughout the year is very important. To keep a line healthy almost doesn't happen at all.
No, it's not happening.
No,
that's not a thing.
And I'm gonna bring this back to 2018 when the Rams set almost every offensive record with Jared Goff. That 5 started the entire year together.
Yep.
The entire year. And because of that, you had the ability to do what they did on offense. That is so just not happening anymore. Most guys are coming out and they have to be positioned. They have to be able to play multiple positions on the line because that's what's necessary in today's game. And because they're playing more games and this is what's happening. And so you guys got to understand, like, that's not just for Bears fans. That's for everybody. Ask Patrick Mahomes if he wants more offensive linemen.
Always need more offensive line, especially a guy with Caleb. You want the best version of Caleb, give him the best offensive line.
Give him time, baby.
Yeah, give him the best offensive line possible. Second round, I went with Kyle Kennard, the edge rusher from South Carolina. We had an opportunity to talk to this young man at the NFL Combine.
Ooh, perfect
I think
pick.
he fits Chicago.
I
He's
agree.
tough. He's gritty. He understands
No nonsense.
Yeah, no nonsense. Straight to the cut. He loves the game of football. He's been through some stuff. He was under-recruited, went to Georgia Tech first.
Got a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, and he got the award, and people don't understand. He got the award for the best defensive player in college football, and nobody talks about it.
Yeah, it's insane, actually, that he's not being talked about at a higher level, and I think it is because he is so low-key. Quite frankly.
I think so, too.
And that is perfect for Chicago. It's like he's a little blue-collar, tough.
Yeah, he's going to fit.
Yeah, he fits well, and he's going to fit well on that line.
And you talking about putting people face in the dirt. He likes that. He likes that.
He's made for that. I like that shit.
So let's go with this. We're going to go with a playmaker next. Jalen Noel, the wide receiver from Iowa State. I like this situation because they need a dynamic vertical threat, right? Jalen Noel's a 4'3", 40 guy.
We need a speed guy.
Yeah, need a speed guy to add with Rome because this was the problem offensively last year. They kept trying to send Rome, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore on
Darnell
routes.
Mooney routes from the year prior.
Thank you. And that's not their game, right? And so now go get a guy who can do that, who can be a playmaker, but who also line in the slot and just get open quickly to let Caleb get the ball out of his hands quickly. So I like Jalen Noel.
Since Darnell Mooney, and Mooney was a guy that I really liked that they had for forever. And last year there were multiple times where I looked at the remote control and I wanted to break the remote after watching what was happening currently on offense because
it was head scratching.
You had way too many dudes doing the exact same thing and then playing guys out of position.
And it was none of their skill sets. Keenan Allen has never been I'm a run past people.
No. And that's my biggest frustration with coaches and when they cannot adapt to the personnel that they have and they force guys to do things that are not their strong suit, and that's exactly what was going on. But no matter what, in today's game, you need a speed guy, and Jalen Noel is a guy that everybody's really liked throughout this process.
I kept saying balance is what the Chicago Bears wide receiver room needs. But you know what else they need? They need a ground and pound guy. Yeah. They need a running back, right? And they have DeAndre Swift. But DeAndre Swift, first of all, I feel like he's getting older, right, and getting to that peak point. He had a pretty good year last year when they gave him the rock and went healthy.
For sure.
But they need a running back in between the tackles, somebody that's 230 pounds, somebody that can also catch the ball out of the backfield. I'm looking at Ollie Gordon, right? You put him in the Chicago Bears. You're talking about, you said they don't have 3 new offensive linemen. I gave him 4, right? Because you're going to have Josh Simmons. You're going to have Joe Tooney. You're going to have Dahlman. You're going to have Jackson. And then you're still going to have Darnell Wright, who they drafted a few years ago. Now you have an offensive line that's ready to move some people. Yeah. And I think Ollie Gordon behind that offensive line, you get more of the 2023 version of Ollie Gordon. And he's able to take over. Yeah,
that's a match made in heaven.
Yeah, I think
that's a ground and pound. Yep. Give him the ball. Ollie told everybody at Big 12 he's not a 3-down back. He's a 4-down back, baby. Give me the rock, 4th down in inches, and they're going to move some bodies, baby. And that's like he really worked on his pass blocking. He can be out there for every part of the everything on offense. And Ollie's a kid that we've gotten to know really well and just a lot of faith in who he is as a person and how difficult it was to go through the season they had this year just as a whole team, right? And just continue to get after it. And I invite you to watch the BYU tape. Watch the BYU tape from this year.
Know who he is. Yep.
If you want to watch with competent quarterback play, watch the first half. 1, 2, 3 touchdowns. Bears fans, you'll love Ollie Gordon. He's perfect for Chicago.
Yep, and there we go. We fixed the Chicago Bears through the draft. But let's look at this offseason thus far, right?
Oh, yeah.
Let's hand them a draft grade. Paige,
I need to give away this offseason.
What are we giving the Chicago Bears?
Hey, Bears fans, what offensive grade or what offseason grade do we have? We have an A+, baby.
Yep,
you want to know why? You want to know why? Because you crushed the coaching hire. You crushed the coaching staff. And you went into free agency and you spent some money, guys. I'm so happy. I can't stop smiling and I'm ready for football season. And let me tell you, That's not how it is every offseason. Not how it is every offseason. I'm very excited about what the Bears have done. And if you're a Bears fans, you got to be happy with the out-of-character stuff. Mm-hmm. When you grew up in Chicago and you've watched your team be one type of thing forever, cheap. And they're not. They spent money, and I can't stop smiling. And Bears fans, that's how you should feel, because you know what? Caleb Williams is a hell of a quarterback. He's a hell of a quarterback, and it was not what he did last year, in spite of the fact that they had a absolute debacle going on in front of him and coaching-wise was a shit show. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of good Caleb Williams this year. And don't forget who beat the Packers the last game of the year.
Those Chicago Bears. Well, listen, you killed the offseason thus far, right? But if you want to kill a draft, listen to the Draft Club, right?
Yeah.
Go get those players that I said. You add them into this roster, the Chicago Bears will be sitting at the top of the NFC North sooner rather than later. I'm Keith Sanchez. That's Paige Dimakos. This is Draft Club. Players only.